We've got Francis Twing, who's the senior strategist for Asia ex-Japan, joins us from Credit Agricole. Francis, morning. Great to have you with us. First off, we of course had S&P, which revised the outlook for India's long-term credit rating to a negative, but did maintain the rating at a BBB-. How really do you interpret this warning?
A number of key indicators do suggest some weakness in India. Firstly, external positions. For example, India, except Vietnam, is the only economy in Asia which is having current account deficits. And the overall basic balance, which combines current account and foreign direct investment, are still negative for India. And secondly, in terms of the domestic position, fiscal surplus or deficits, India's fiscal deficit is quite huge, amount to more than 6% of GDP. And in comparison, if you take Indonesia, which is only one notch below India, Indonesia's external position is much better, and the fiscal deficit is only very mild. So overall, I think the chance of downgrade on India cannot be ignored.
Francis, now S&P has been very pessimistic in its estimates for India's growth. The FM has reiterated that India is on track for a 7% growth. But what's your view on this?
I think the growth prospects are still there. 7% is not that difficult to attain, but the downside risk would be because they have limited room for fiscal expansionary measures, and also interest rates are still relatively high, so they may face some challenges ahead. Having said that, it is an emerging economy, and also the domestic securities are still relatively attractive to foreign investors. That can be provided support.
Right, and Francis, how is the changing growth inflation matrix in Asia going to impact central bank policies?
The growth inflation matrix has been changing recently, now with higher inflation pressures being seen due to the movement in oil price, and at the same time the outlook on growth seems to be less pessimistic than before. So overall central banks in Asia are getting less dovish, and indeed, except India, China and Vietnam, we see every central banks in the region are already done in their rate easing cycle. But on the other hand, I think the chance for rate hike to start this year is still very low because of the still fragile economic outlook.
Right, and how attractive are Indian bonds at current levels, Francis? And where do you see yields by the end of the year?
Comparing with its credit ratings, the bonds do provide quite a significant yield pick-up. But then if you take into account of the risk about a possible downgrade, and also take into account of the relatively high inflation in India, then the real yield is not that attractive anymore.